This is not going to have anything to do with the coronavirus epidemic. This is about Mary Shelley. I just read a book that was about a rather surprising and unusual subject: context. Not many people write about this because it takes too much doggone work. It takes research, painstaking, thorough, rigorous research. It involved taking many threads, loose ends, and weaving them together in one coherent, unified whole. That is not easily done. I tip my hat to anyone who can do this. It might be especially difficult right now because we live in a world that is flooded with information, but virtually devoid of context. It's all at loose ends. Or the context is so impossibly complicated that no one understands it. The internet is a wonderland in many ways, but it has no context. Context is further obliterated by deliberate disinformation that tracks along with rumor, conjecture, and all the different sources of misinformation. So to come upon a work that seriously digs in and establishes what seems to be a very real context, that is, I say, a rarity. The book is The Lady and Her Monsters. It's about Mary Shelley and how she came to write her book Frankenstein, or The Modern Prometheus, while she was still a teenager. It seems a minor miracle, and perhaps it was, but a diligent search through the studies, activities, and leading interests of her time make the work seem rather more the opposite, inevitable. When the elements are in place, when they come together, when Percy Shelley is your husband and his friend Lord Byron proposes that each person in the small party compose a story of Gothic wonder, out pops Frankenstein. Oh, the threads. One is Mary herself. She comes from Mary Wollstonecraft and William Godwin. Add an already married Shelley, known not just as a poet, but as the young chemist seeking the elixir of life. You may judge him as a poet, but I will say he was a bad scientist, a dabbler, and a mighty poor sailor, too. Other threads. This was a time before specialized scientists. Then they called themselves natural philosophers. They studied chemistry and electricity and the effects of those two on the limbs of dead frogs. And then, why not? It had to be on the limbs of dead people. There came a great demand for corpses in decent condition for research by the anatomists, who, more than examining the details of physical structure, were also looking for the most profound secrets of nature, her hidden operations. So, men like Volta, Galvin, Aldini, and Humphrey Davy were experimenting with electricity. Dissection rooms were operating theaters filled with eager audiences, and the doctors had better luck if they were excellent showmen. People wanted to be thrilled. Resurrectionists took this a step further. First, they would animate a severed head or torso, then perhaps bring a dead corpse to life. What a quest! And they needed a constant supply of bodies to do this. So there were expert grave robbers, and some of them turned to murder as a better way of supplying fresh corpses. Good money in it. This is very gruesome stuff, but it was popular in the day, as were public executions. They were joined in this search by alchemists and magicians, all seeking in various ways to solve the mysteries of creation. Religion was in it too. Could man create a living entity without God? An homunculus? A golem? And also, what was man? A creature with a soul from God? Or a soulless automaton? And there were the romantic poets, seeking to find a higher, better self. All of this came to a head in Mary Shelley's brain, and she wrote her book. Most critics did not approve, and of those who did, many thought the most likely author was either her husband or her father. The poor woman, for the most part, led a very unhappy life, constantly poor and facing death, leaving behind that one bright spot, her ghastly tale, which I now understand a little better. For example, I did not before consider the absence of a mother in the creation and the effect that might have. Males might be the generative force, but the mother was supposed to nurture. Mary's mother died when she was young. Her stepmother was a terrible hag, and the creature had no mother. A missing thread, another missing thread, there. Context is as much about what is not there as what is present.